Hi, this is Jay Billis of ESPN, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
It's another edition of the ML Sports Platter, all over the major platforms. Go ahead and download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. We're brought to you by Stanley Law Offices, Rosie's Corner, the Vince Aguirre Consulting Group, and our great friends at Sit Means Sit Syracuse. Go ahead and log on to sitmeansitsyracuse.com and check out everything that they have to offer. Any breed, any behavior, any dog, they will do it right for you. Consultations are free right now. It's the #1 dog training in Central New York. Make sure you go ahead and visit them online. Actually, the website is sitmeansit.com. That's sitmeansit.com. You can choose your location. Dave and his staff doing an amazing, amazing job. Sit Means Sit Syracuse is a proud ML Sports Platter sponsor. Well, it was announced last week that Saratoga Race Course will be open to 100% capacity. Let's check in with Kevin Rich, who is doing some awesome things out there in the Capital Region as the general manager, market president, Town Square Media. He's going to be on the call for a lot of these for 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio, covering a lot of these races from the small stakes to the great stakes, the Travers, the Jim Dandy, the Alabama, and on it goes. You can get Kevin on Twitter at KRich23. Kevin Rich, welcome back to the pod, buddy. How are you?
Mike, it's great to be on as always, and guess what, my man? Horse racing.
I know, man. So this announcement literally gets out, and I was in the middle of a couple of things, so I didn't send it out, but I wanted to tweet something that said Saratoga Race Course, and I ended up just retweeting whatever the heck the post was, but I wanted to post something like Saratoga Race Course announces that it will be 100% capacity according to NYRA, whatever, blah, blah, blah. A live look in at Kevin Rich, and then putting you, with a GIF of some kind where you're like, those GIFs of the dancers and all the sort of thing. Maybe put you like the Snoopy one or like the Lisa Simpson, that belly bump sort of thing. I wanted to do that because I know how excited you are.
Yeah, no, you know what? I'm pumped. I have obviously I have the privilege to be able to broadcast the races with our ESPN radio affiliate here in Albany and Saratoga. So I had that opportunity last year to still be there on site while there were no fans. But it was, and we talked about this last year. We talked about it since. It just, the handle was great and people were still betting and online and listening on radio, watching on TV, and so on. But I mean, how do you run the races without fans?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So the fact that we could flash forward here, more than 70% of the people out there are vaccinated. Open it up 100% capacity. The last few weeks, there have been talks of they were going to try and get as many people in there as possible. But now with the news from New York State that, hey, we're good to go and the track can open up 100%, it's just awesome. And everyone here is excited. You walk around, downtown, because this is kind of the time of year where, people start coming into town more and more, and people are out on the streets and going to restaurants and drinking at the bars, and you're just chatting with people, and there's just this huge amount of excitement about what this summer is going to mean for Saratoga and Saratoga Race Course.
And pretty similar, right? I mean, date-wise, everything's kind of on the normal dates and weekends for these, especially the big stakes.
Yeah, bingo. So for last year, obviously things were a little interesting. The Travers was on a different time on the calendar. Yep. It was kind of weird, based on how everything shook out. But no, this year it's pretty much what you would expect out of a typical year. You've got the 1 million Whitney on August 7th. You've got the 1.25 million Travers on August 28th. There's a couple more Breeders' Cups, winning your in races. We talk about the Travers and we talk about the Whitney, but you've got the 4-star Dave Handicap, which has always been on the calendar. The Ballerino, which is always a great race for the filly and mare division. And then here we go. You got the Sword Dancer, you got the Flower Bowl, you got the Jockey Gold Club, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, which is $1 million race. I mean, it's just the purses and the level of competition and the horses that we're going to see at Saratoga this summer. I tell you what, they're going to be putting on a treat for all those fans that are coming back this year looking for some great action on the race course.
What did you see so far this year, halfway through, in Triple Crown races included, obviously? What did you see that leads into Saratoga, some momentum of certain things or jockeys or horses or storylines or whatever the case may be to kind of set up the Saratoga racing season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 3-year-old division right now has been a lot of fun to watch. There's really no clear separator, although I do think Essential Quality is probably the best 3-year-old
I do too.
out there.
Yep.
Which he showed in the Belmont, and I think really he was a bad break in the Kentucky Derby. From having a chance of winning that, but I think he is the best racehorse out there, and I think we will likely see Essential Quality in the Travers. But the rest of that division, Hot Rod Charlie, Rombauer. I think Steve Asmussen has a really good horse in Midnight Bourbon. There are some really good horses out there that we're going to see. Mandaloon, King Fury. I know Kenny McPeak is sitting on a pretty good horse in the 3-year-old division there too. So, and I haven't even talked about what Todd Pletcher will bring, and probably Chad Brown, who calls Saratoga home too. So I think we're gearing up for a 2021 meet here at Saratoga. We're going to see, as we always do, some of the best 3-year-olds in the country come here. Not to mention, we're going to see some of the great 2-year-olds who are beginning their racing careers here at Saratoga, as we do every year. I love the 2-year-old races here, but I think you'll see, there's really been no horse in that 3-year-old division that's really stood out. And what I love in years like that with the Travers is when you have different 3-year-old winners in the other Triple Crown races, the Travers is that race. It's kind of like that tiebreaker, Mike. It's like, that's the race that really says, okay, who is the key 3-year-old that's setting up for the Breeders' Cup as the favorite?
And I got to tell you, that just adds so much to that day, to that weekend, to the lead up. I mean, you can feel it, inside the body and soul of horse racing fans that when you're leading up to Travers Day, yeah, there's a lot on the table. There's a lot of money. There's the stiff competition all day long with all the other races. I mean, you and I are glued to those races all day, even before the Travers starts. But that Travers race, man, as far as being like that great, I mean, we've talked about how, if you run the analogy over to golf, it's almost like the Players' Championship of horse racing, but it's added to a sense even more important in the Players because of how late it is, what you just mentioned with the 3-year-olds and forming into who, which one's the best one, where the Players is, it's earlier in the golf calendar. And then you have your, a couple of majors, and you've got some end of the year stuff, and the World Golf things start to come, to fruition. That Travers, getting that best horse and competing for that, man, that just adds a whole other dimension to the day.
Yeah, it can really be a springboard. I mean, we talked about there's other great races that day. I mentioned there's Breeders' Cup winning your in races that day too, like the Ballerina, the Personal Ensign, the Sword Dancer. But, with the Travers, we've seen also sometimes, your horses should be at their prime when they hit 3 years old, but we've seen horses that have had even better careers once they're 4-year-olds and upwards. So then you look at races like the Whitney, but, we've seen horses over the years. California Chrome. I mean, California Chrome, you could make the argument, was an even better horse as a 4-year-old.
Absolutely.
Than as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, and I saw him, I was in person, seeing him run and win the Preakness.
Right, bingo. So, all right, California Chrome didn't race here at the Travers. However, a horse like California Chrome and others who have raced in the Travers actually have made their stamp, like those winners of the Travers or other, later 3-year-old races like the Haskell or the Pacific Classic. Like, these horses then become something really incredible in their 4-year-old, year after this. So there's so much riding on the Travers in terms of really separating who's the best in the 3-year-old division before the Breeders' Cup Classic, but at the same time, just the races going up to that day, leading into that day, and on that day itself. It's what makes Saratoga so much fun, so incredible. 76 stakes races, $21.5 million in purses for the 2021 summer meet, which, that's exciting for the fans, but think about how exciting that is, too, for all the owners and the jockeys and the trainers. It's just how special this Saratoga meet is, and I think we're really going to be set up for a great summer here at Saratoga this year.
Yeah, no doubt. A couple more for Kevin Rich, of course, doing great things out there in the Capital Region, the market president, Town Square Media, 104.5 The Team. Horse racing broadcaster this upcoming horse racing season out in Saratoga. Make sure you go out and spend a day at the spa, go play golf, go enjoy that place, the concerts, and it's just going to be Yeah, it's amazing. I've talked to a lot of restaurant owners, and I work with a couple of them, and they, I told them, I said, look, you made it through this whole thing. We all took hits. I'm still taking hits. I don't know when it'll get better for certain people. When the money comes, I don't know how it's going to work. But what I do know is that for concerts, for horse racing, for sporting events, we've already seen on TV, there's sellouts. The places are packed. Bars are packed. Restaurants are. Kevin, a lot of these people might make it back times 2 or 3 because people are so amped up to just go do things again. And I'll tell you what, there's no better place in the summer to do stuff than Saratoga.
No, I agree. I believe in that wholeheartedly. Last year there was some of that. Obviously the track was close to fans. SPAC, there were no concerts. People were still going out on the lake. There was still a little bit of energy downtown. At times, we certainly saw a dip in the pandemic at that time in terms of the active cases in the summer months. But everyone just kind of, you walked around like something was missing,
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. It was true. Like there was something missing. So I agree in that statement and that sentiment full-heartedly. Like people are ready to go. And I think that that's going to be, and it's not just here in Saratoga. I think, we talk about, the Finger Lakes in the backyard, Cooperstown, which I'm sure you're
fair.
About
Yeah.
That. Yeah, Cooperstown's going to be open for the fans to go and see Derek Jeter get in the hall. The State Fair, yeah. So I think this is going to be a really, really great summer for everybody that's just been itching for a year plus now to get out and really enjoy what this area has to offer.
What's next for Bob Baffert?
Well, suing everybody he can. Just a couple days ago, he sued the New York racing officials. So right now he cannot race at Belmont, and he cannot race in New York at all. So that includes Saratoga. So he sued the New York racing officials over what he called an impulsive ban, which stems from the second test of Medina Spirit's urine. Which, basically got him in a whole lot of trouble. What's interesting, Mike, is, and I know you know this, it's horse racing doesn't really have like a true governing body. It's not like there's...
It's like the NCAA.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's nobody here. Like what drives me crazy about this is Bob Baffert can be banned from Churchill Downs. He can be banned from the New York racing circuit, yet nothing stopping him from racing at Del Mar.
Right. Pull Jerry Bailey out of the booth and just make him commissioner, right? Just pull Bailey out,
Yeah, so, I mean, when people ask like, what's next for Bob Baffert, the question should really be, what's next for horse racing?
Sure.
Because there's with no true kind of oversight and governing body, how can he be allowed to bring horses to, Monmouth Park and Del Mar, Santa Anita, but then not be able to bring them to Churchill Downs and to the Saratogas and the Belmonts and so on. So I think that what he's done, like I was shocked that he even put himself in a position to have a horse in this year's Kentucky Derby, the biggest race to kick off the Triple Crown, to be put in a position to have a horse that could test positive for a banned substance. I was shocked by that after what had happened last year. But ultimately, at this point, when people ask me, like, well, what do you do next with Bob Baffert? I say, what do you do next with horse racing? Because there has to be some more oversight so that, it's what baseball is going through right now. It's like, what can you put on a baseball? What can't you put on a baseball? Like, there has to be guidance on that. And it can't just be this way or the other way. And it's very interesting to see what happens. But at this point, we're not going to see, it doesn't look like, we'll see a Bob Baffert horse at Saratoga, which, for some of us that always forget to put a Bob Baffert horse on our big stakes race ticket, maybe that'll make it more profitable because you won't fall victim to Bob Baffert bringing a horse that, people don't think is going to win in the race. But I'm very interested to see what happens, and I think we're going to learn a little bit more in the next few weeks.
I think of this situation like baseball's steroid era. Even though there was a commissioner in Bud Selig, the sport let the Players Association get so big that baseball couldn't test because The player said, there's no way I'm giving you a blood test. And then we saw the andro, we saw the creatine. It led into the needles and Clemens and Bonds and all the rest of it. We already know. And it was so wildly inconsistent that as we go years from that point, we still ask questions about who used when, how, against who, what pitchers used, how long did they use, are there guys in the Hall of Fame who use, guys who aren't in the Hall of Fame who should be in the Hall of Fame. You know, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of that with the inconsistency part. The only difference is baseball had a commissioner there who let it all go. Horse racing now, like you say, no overall, totalitarian, kind of a governing big body to make a decision. But it reminds me a little bit of that, where in the end, Kevin, it's always an open-ended question, and I hate that.
Yeah, no, excuse me, I agree. That's, it's upsetting that there's no oversight there, and what truly the blemish for me, like as somebody, and I'm sure you probably feel this way too. It's like, as somebody that used to be a casual horse racing fan that now has really gotten invested in the sport. One of the reasons why I got more invested was because I was your kind of traditional person that just watched the Triple Crown races. Oh, it's Kentucky Derby Day. Like, let's go out to the bar and, drink some bourbon and watch the race and wear a fancy hat and throw a couple dollars down, whatever. And what you lose are those casual fans that watch the Triple Crown races and then they get into it further and they become big fans of the sport. And when you're so, as a major sports fan in general, when you have this situation like, baseball, like, I love the sport, but all this stuff's going on, and we've seen it in the other leagues as well, it tarnishes your enjoyment of the sport. So that's what I hated to see with the Kentucky Derby, one of the biggest race days of the year, to see the winner of the race, then ultimately it looks like going to be disqualified here after the second test. With a banned substance, and the biggest trainer in the sport falling victim to that too. So it's a bad look, and they need some oversight, and they need to figure it out.
By the way, I want to see you in a fancy hat.
I think you have at the Derby we went to.
A fancy. Oh yeah,
when the incredible group of women behind us handed me one of their hats to take a photo with, that is somewhere deep in social media for somebody to find.
I completely blanked on that. I wonder why. All right, final one for you in the minute or two I have left. Jockey storylines. What about the circuit that you've seen here at K-Rich 2021? Jockeys, storylines, takeaways, setting up for Saratoga, whatever the case may be, who you're impressed with. What's that jockey circuit look like to you this year, man? What do you take away so far?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's some incredible jockeys out there. I think at the end of the day, typically Saratoga, as we're setting up for Saratoga, typically Saratoga sets up for the Ortiz brothers. Yep. Irad was the winner, last year. Jose Ortiz, his brother, right behind him. Actually, I think, to be honest with you, I think they actually tied with, I think it was 57 wins each. Although it's just interesting, right? Based on the statistics, I think Jose had a couple less starts than his brother Irad, but Irad had more earnings. So who knows? But those two always go back and forth. It'll be interesting. Irad actually got banged up right before the Belmont a couple weeks ago. So he's been off his mounts for a little bit here. So he's gearing up to get healthy to finish out the Belmont meet and obviously come here to Saratoga. But those are the two we always look at. And then other interesting storylines for me. Luis Saez, he missed the first couple weeks of the meet last year due to a COVID positive. Luis Saez is always that one. If you look at me and say, hey, who's somebody that isn't an Ortiz brother that can win the Saratoga meet? Luis Saez. I mean, for the guy to have missed 2 weeks of racing and still, I think he finished fourth last year behind the Ortiz brothers and Rosario. He had like 42 or 43 wins on the meet. And fifth place was like 20 less than that. So he's another one I look at and say, okay, if we're looking at who's going to be one of the top jockeys in the meet, I look at the Ortiz brothers and Luis Saez. But, of course, as always, we're going to see, Johnny V, the Hall of Famer, Javier Castellano, Joel Rosario, who he was winning races like crazy on the turf last year.
Yep.
So, it's really, really exciting. And then, I get excited about some of the younger guys in the sport, Kendrick Carmouche, Eric Cancel. You'll see, Benjamin Hernandez, Luis Cardenas. Some of these guys will get on some key horses this year, and they love racing here. I mean, when those guys win, people get really excited. They get behind it. So I'm really excited about what we're going to see, with the jockeys. I think it's going to be a more open meet this year in terms of, getting 57 wins again this year like the Ortiz brothers did. I think that's going to be tough to top. I think the winner this year is probably going to be more of in the 48 to 50 range, with there being a lot less separation from number 1 to, say, number 5 or 6.
Okay, you're going to be doing these races, and they're going to be streaming again, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's 1045theteam.com, and then you can get it on the app too.
Yeah, bingo. So if you live locally in the Albany, Saratoga area, you can listen on air on 104.5 FM. If you're outside the area or on days where we have New York Yankees broadcasts, you can listen on our streaming players. So just go to 1045theteam.com and click on Listen Live. You can also download the 1045 The Team ESPN radio app. So wherever you go, you can tune into the races this summer.
Very cool. He'll be calling them. Kevin Rich doing great things out in the Capital Region. Market President, Town Square Media, 1045theteam.com, and on the app. Get the races there. Kevin doing a great job, and get him on Twitter as well, at krich23. Kevin, thank you so much. We're getting into it, man. Nothing beats Saratoga. We're creeping up on college football, NFL, coming off the U.S. Open, Stanley Cup play. I mean, come on. Let's go.
Listen, we always joke about it. It's like everyone talks about, like, what's your favorite time of year in sports?
Yeah.
And it's
every damn, yeah. No, I know.
Best day in sports. I always say March Madness, and I'm sitting here watching the hockey, and I'm like, oh, Stanley Cup playoffs, incredible.
I know.
And then you got the Open going on. It's just, it's so much fun. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I know you are. It always gives us great things to talk about, and just can't wait for a couple weeks from now when Saratoga kicks off. And that's truly, in my heart, one of my favorite and best times of the year.
Kevin, thank you. Best of luck.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Sports Platter is brought to you by our great friends at Stanley Law Offices, the Vince Aguirre Consulting Group, Prestwick Golf, and Heather Saxton, a part of the Hunt Real Estate umbrella. Heather's doing great things. She just sold a house recently on the lake in central New York. Make sure that you know that Heather at Hunt on Facebook is somebody you can count on who makes home more than just a place. She makes it a feeling. A licensed real estate salesperson. Get her on Facebook or on the phone. 315-727-3313. That's 315-727-3313. Heather Saxton. Heather at Hunt on Facebook. Heather Saxton, the official real estate agent of the ML Sports Platter. It's interesting when Kevin Rich was talking about, the fans and Saratoga Race Course, being there, cool, we got it in. And how many shows did I do? How many shows did you listen to just overall? People, man, as long as we can just get the games, and there was a lot of truth to that then, and there's a lot of truth to it now. But a lot of people out there said, man, we're going to get used to watching games without fans. It's all good. Like, I don't really notice that much of a difference. And I don't know if it was media people trying to talk about it to make it feel like it really wasn't that big of a deal, right? It's like, I don't really notice it anyway because I watch games on mute and I read a book or I'm working or I'm bouncing around different things or I've got I stream something else on my phone, whatever the case may be. Some games I watch with volume up, some I don't. And I don't know if it was just that kind of just trying to make people feel better about the situation. But let me tell you something. Watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, watching these crowds in Vegas, in Montreal, in Tampa, the Islanders, we're coming off just a few days here from 100% capacity at multiple stadiums around Major League Baseball, Yankee Stadium, just getting back to 100%. The NFL is going to be 100% capacity in these stadiums. I got my hair cut yesterday without a mask for the first time since last February, right? You're going to go to bars and restaurants. There's no restrictions. Cuomo lifted everything in New York State. And New York State was the complete and utter clown show. It was the prototypical clown show of the coronavirus. And you know what? Like, we're back, man. We are all the way back. There's nobody who can stand in our way. There's no, inaccuracies with facts. There's no BS. There's no cancel culture, woke, anyone, anywhere who can say, well, you can't do this, or you can't do that, or I wouldn't, or you're going to have your... No, we're back. We're open. We're back. We're ready to roll. I don't know really what to think of it. It's almost like I kind of look at it now that we're out of it, and I think we've been kind of getting out of it for like literally 6 months. Kids should have been back in school a long time ago. But then you hear medical people with the protocol. You have to follow the safety protocol, and it's better to keep wearing masks as long as we can until. Well, but then the vaccination comes out, and I don't know how much the vaccination. I mean, I know some people have gotten it, but they still, get coronavirus for a short time, which is really weird to me. But vaccination's a vaccination. I mean, you can get the flu vaccination, your flu shot, and still get the flu. So like it's a vaccinate. I mean, that happened to me 2 years ago. I had the flu for like 24 hours. I got my flu shot. But then people were coming at me like, hey, because you got your flu shot, that flu didn't last, as opposed to like 15 years of me not getting the flu shot, and I never got the flu. So, it is what it is. I mean, do we say that? Do we throw the cliche out here for that? I don't know, but like here we are. We're back. We're here. College football, NFL, 100%. Got a bunch of fans. I mean, last week's U.S. Open was unbelievable. So this is excellent. And let me tell you that when you go to a grade 1 stakes day, a big time stakes race day at Saratoga, Jim Dandy, Alabama, Travers, Whitney, whatever the case may be, when you go out to these races, you get there early, you set up your place. Maybe you're having a donut and an OJ, enjoying a little bit of breakfast, or maybe you're having breakfast over where, the horses train and such in the morning, exercise, riding, and all the rest. First races come up in a couple hours. You're relaxing, you're walking around, you're checking out the shops, and then it gets into it, because you're up early on these days. We are anyway, and we sometimes go and save a bench, and then we go back and then back again, and it's just you can feel it. You can feel the ramp up to the day. And then when the big race comes, the biggie, Travers, Whitney, whatever, Jim Dandy, etc. I mean, the feeling right before that race, and you can just, the crowd is like rising. People are talking. The drinks are flowing, and off, and they're off in the Travers Stakes. And it is just this rush that is remarkable. And so what am I getting at here? I'm getting to the point that when everybody tried to make that we'll get used to watching things without fans, you were crazy then and you're crazy now. Because there is no comparison watching, those Canadian teams, when we started opening up in the States, the Canadian teams in Canada, what a clown house that was too. New York State and Canada with this coronavirus, the last, oh my gosh, 9 months. Holy smokes. You can't get back in the country. The Blue Jays have been playing in Dunedin, Florida. They've been playing in Buffalo, for crying out loud, and then obviously on the road. You can't get back. They can't get back to a game in Toronto. I'm hoping they can by the end of the year, because those fans deserve to see that very exciting team. Look at the hockey games. I mean, if you tell me that the hockey games, in that Canadian bubble, or I say Canadian bubble, but, in their respective arenas, it was kind of like their overall sort of country bubble. We had the bubble, but then we had a Canadian bubble because it was just the arenas and no fans. What I'm getting at is that those games were dull. They were dreary without fans. Now, did I still like watching? Did I flip it on? Yeah, I flipped on some of them, I do watch some of my games with the volume down, looking up here and there in between pitches, whatever the case may be, because I'm a huge reader. I'm a vociferous reader, so I like to, plow through my books. But, you notice a difference, man. And now, with 100% capacity in these Stanley Cup playoffs, I'm looking at, these Islanders crowds at Nassau are just, they're absurd. The crowds in Tampa are amazing. Vegas is just, it's a huge party, you know? So Montreal, you know, getting fans back at all when they first did was unbelievable. Just those few, I think they let in like 400 fans, and they were nuts. They were making sound of like 10, 12, 13,000 people. So for anyone who then or now has said, yeah, we'll get used to watching without fans. This is going to be the new normal. Remember the new normal. Haven't heard a lot of people say the new normal lately, have you? You know, it's funny how that stuff just sort of disappears, right? Just all these different terms and all these different things that came about during the coronavirus that we'd never heard before, right? The new normal. The new normal. We're going to be, oh, yeah, Michigan and Penn State in the Big House. We're going to get used to watching no fans. Oh, yeah. Carrier Dome, Syracuse and Duke. Better with no fans. You know, it's better. It's so used to it, you know. Yeah, you can hear a pin drop and it's weird, and Zoom calls are weird, but man, you know, hey, we got the games on. That's all that matters. We're going to get really used to not having any fans there. 30,000 plus, won't even notice. You know, all the horse racing, Derby, Belmont, Preakness, Saratoga, Breeders' Cup, all the golf majors. You know, baseball stadium's 100% watching Fernando Tatis whack the ball almost 500 feet, although what kind of baseball is it right now, we just don't know, Mr. Rob Manfred. You get the point. I will, and I know most of you won't, if not all, will never get used to watching sports without fans. The fans are important. The fans are what make a lot of these atmospheres tick. Think about the loudest buildings, the best atmospheres you've ever been in. Wouldn't be that way if you didn't have fans, obviously. So, super pumped up. Big time thanks to Kevin Rich. Again, get him on Twitter at krich23, and you can obviously go to 1045theteam.com and stream those Saratoga Race Course races live there and on the team app. So make sure you get that. They do a heck of a job out there with the digital media, so it's definitely worth getting the app. You're on the go. You want to listen quickly to some certain things that are going on. You can also hit volume down on the NBC call and listen to NBC calls rather multiple throughout the year, and turn Kevin on, and then you can always, if you have a DVR like me, you can always rewind it and then listen to the call by Larry Kalmus and others as well. So pretty cool stuff. Kevin Rich, he's the best. Can't wait for Saratoga Race Course. I'm Mike Lindsley, the ML Sports Platter, brought to you by our great friend Brian Conboy at Mass Mutual New York State. Tax-efficient retirement planning. Go with Brian today. He's got a lot of awesome ideas. He opened our eyes to a lot of new things as well. Brian Conboy of Mass Mutual New York State, advisors.massmutual.com, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. He is the official financial advisor of the ML Sports Platter. Tip of the cap, thank you as well to the Al and Angus Pub, Liverpool Physical Therapy, Camillus Golf Club, and the support from the Swan and Whitaker families as well. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports, and of course you can download and subscribe to this podcast all over the major platforms where podcasts are found. 5-star reviews and feedback, they are both appreciated. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.